Well, a local author's new book is gaining national attention, landing at #3 in Elle magazine. It's called Qualified. It is a great discussion, shining new light on forms of workplace racism.
Now, the book focuses on a concept called competency checking, the idea that qualified black candidates are constantly needing to prove themselves. So joining us is the author of this book, Sherry Dunn, to explore the concept and talking about why this book is timely right now. Really do appreciate the time.
Oh, thanks for having me. Thank you so much. It is quite timely.
Yeah,
It is.
First and foremost, what is this concept of competency checking? What does that mean exactly?
Yeah, I really appreciate you asking that question. So competency checking, as you said, is the ways in which Black and other people of color and also women have to prove their knowledge, competency, and ability over and over and over. And they have to prove it at a higher level, right? So the assumption starts that you're unqualified because of your presentation, because of your race or gender. And then you end up having to meet higher standards, whereas the common conversation now is you're meeting lower standards, which is actually untrue.
That's interesting, and I'm sure that would, probably come up in some very difficult to navigate conversations when it's being presented as, well, we just want the most qualified workers for the job. So what are some of the ways that you tend to see this competency checking in the workplace?
Right, I love that question. So it's things such as, well, how do you know that? Or how did you get this information? Or do you really have that degree? Or, well, maybe you just need a little more time for your promotion, even though you have the skills and experience, and you notice that others don't, and they're getting promoted, right? Or even in the initial hiring phase, there's been a study that has shown that name bias. So if your name sounds ethnic or Black, then you have a harder time getting that initial job, and that is competency checking, because just the name is saying to the person, oh, I don't think this person qualified because of their race. I see their name. I don't want to hire them for this position.
Wow. Well, we talked about the timely factor of this, and it is, of course, DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, is in the news a lot right now. At the federal level, a lot of cuts being made to DEI programs. Maybe break some of the myths, bust on the myths around DEI right now. What is one of the myths that you really think just needs to be debunked and said straight up?
Well, first of all, diversity, equity, inclusion does not mandate hiring. It doesn't mandate hiring unqualified people. It doesn't do any of those things. Diversity, equity, inclusion is about a company or a business or whatever organization saying two things. I want a diverse workforce that feels supported and included, and I want to reach out to a diverse consumer base who I can sell to and who feels included in my business. And that is the primary goal. So there has never been hiring quotas for DEI. There are no DEI hires. This is language from old affirmative action attacks that have been brought over. Whereas affirmative action is actually a legal concept, has legal elements. Diversity, equity, inclusion is a theoretical framework that employers have used to make sure that everybody in their workplace feels included. And everybody means people with disabilities, women, people of color. So it's a broad range of folks.
Yeah, and this is one of those, kitchen table issues for American families, because this has a real impact on earning potential, the paychecks over time that people are able to bring home and support themselves with. What is the everyday impact on Black Americans when we have, whether it's competency checking in the workplace or these larger companies, scaling back some of their DEI initiatives?
Well, what we know is that racism costs our economy, and some of the figures are anywhere from $1 trillion to $1 billion of lost productivity, entrepreneurship. So racism costs our economy. Making a workplace and a world that is more inclusive expands opportunity. It doesn't limit it. And the idea is that if you get something and then it's taken from me, as opposed to if you get something, you might expand something that has something additional for me, right? And so we start from a scarcity mindset when we talk about these things, and it's set up to pit people against each other and not understand that everybody has a vested interest. And so I think that's part of the issue.
Yeah, I do want to, with your book in particular, Qualified, what is the key message that you hope somebody takes away from this? Is it about understanding what these problems are really about? Because these conversations are layered. What is the key takeaway here from Qualified?
Yeah, I think the key takeaway is that we've all been told a story that is not a true story. It's a story, it's our American story about how we get here. It's about why things look the way they do. It's about some of the factors that are blocking us from our full potential and how we can change that. That's really what it is.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting too. You get into a little bit of imposter syndrome
Oh, yeah.
conversation in the book
Don't
as
get me started on
well, right? Oh my gosh, not enough time in the show to like have this full conversation. But you know, when you identify these things, whether it's competency checking or imposter syndrome, and you give folks the tools to recognize it, what are they able to then do with that information?
Well, we'll take imposter syndrome as an example. I say it's been misidentified as the result of competency checking. In other words, the idea of imposter syndrome is you feel like an imposter because you feel bad. Well, what I'm saying is that for women for whom the original concept was based on and studied, those women went into a workplace that did not reflect them and wasn't designed for them. So of course they felt uncomfortable. That doesn't mean they were imposters. And if you shift your thinking, then you shift your solution. Because if you believe you have an internal problem, then you think you have to internally fix it.
Yeah.
If you realize this is an external issue and that this is not designed for you, you may work to change the design, and you may work with others to change the design. You see, so that shift in thought process has a real implication.
Yeah, I mean, a lot to dive into with this book. I mean, it's fascinating the way the conversation needs to evolve right now, too.
Whether you're an employer, an employee, or you know somewhere in between, it is a great conversation to be having, especially right now. Sherry, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, I really appreciate the
It's great
time.
to talk with you this morning.
Thank you.
If you want to learn more, Sherry is joining CEO of Oregon Community Fund, Lisa Minsa, at Powell's tomorrow for a launch party and discussion about the book. It is a ticketed event. You can learn more about that at KOIN.com and check out Qualified at Powell's or wherever books are sold. Really interesting stuff. Well, guitar in hand.